Welcome to Armanino's Dynamics GP to BC webinar, important factors to consider as you plan to evolve your ERP. My name is Kim Anselmo, and I'm going to be helping with webinar logistics today. Before we get started, I do want to go through a couple of the Zoom webinar tips to make sure you can engage with our presenters as you would like. First of all, in your Zoom webinar toolbar, you'll see some icons down there. The first one is the Q&A box. We encourage you to click on that, open it up, and ask questions throughout the presentation. We'll do our best to answer them at the end. If we don't answer it during the presentation, we will reach out to you personally and answer that as well. There's also a chat feature that you can send questions to the panelists as well. And if you do have any difficulties hearing anything or have an issue with your Zoom, do click on the raise your hand button and I can reach out to you to help with that. If you clicked on it accidentally, you can also click the lower your hand button if you'd wish. Additionally, if you have any audio needs, there is that join audio button on the lower left-hand side, as well as the mute button. If you click the up arrow that looks like a carrot, you can test your audio, and you can also go ahead and select a different audio speaker as well to help adjust for that. And with that, we have lots of content to cover today. So I want to introduce our presenter, Steve Chapman, who is the solution architect for consulting, and Teresa Brown, our partner for consulting as well.
Hello, I'm Steve Chapman. I've been working with Armanino for almost 8 years. I've been working with Dynamics GP and Business Central for a very, very long time. I know the products well. I know how customers use them, and I'm looking forward to this webinar today.
Thanks, Steve. I'm Teresa Brown, a partner. Have been working with the Dynamics solutions for longer than I care to say. It's been over 20 years. And I'm really excited to present with Steve today. Some of the things that we're going to be talking about, I'm going to cover here in the agenda, but I just wanted to, I'll repeat this a couple of times throughout the webinar. We are presenting this potentially to our GP clients who are out in the Microsoft land and some have been using GP for a short time, some for a long time. We are here to arm you with information, and the information is in such a way that we're just trying to get you to understand what the options are for you. This is not a big sales pitch to move to BC. However, we want to give you the information. So I'll repeat that a little bit later today, and we'll talk a little bit more about the roadmap. All right, so what are we going to talk about today, Steve? The first thing we're going to do is take a look at sort of what BC has to offer. And we're going to jump right into identifying third-party solutions. Many of you have third-party add-ons that have been solving bits and pieces of your business needs for a number of years. We'll help you understand which ones of those are still going to be supported in the BC platform, which ones could potentially be obsolete because perhaps the BC solution does include them. And so what we're doing is we're going to go through the top, I'll call it 20 third-party solutions and give you a little bit more information about those. At the end, Steve is going to show you a cost analysis example of the financial implications of upgrading your current GP solution versus maybe migrating to the BC solution. And we're going to talk today primarily about licensing costs. Third, it has come to us a number of times. What do I do if I have payroll or human resources or both? So many of our clients have payroll and or human resources in GP today. That's not a part of Business Central as part of the core offering going forward. So we have two third-party vendors that I'll be highlighting today, and we can take offline and talk more about each of those at a later time, and I can connect you directly to them. And then finally, learn about the features and functionality differences between GP and Business Central. So jumping ahead, one of the things that we like to talk about when we're talking about potentially moving solutions or changing solutions, I like to show this slide because really the catalyst for growing your organization oftentimes is change. This last year, a lot of people had to make some changes due to COVID. For instance, people not being able to go into an office and print checks. So They've converted their system to now allow payment from customers and to vendors through ACH and EFT. But other things that really are important around change is, attracting and retaining employees and making sure that you've got a modern platform that you're working with. And this graphic here sort of illustrates, on the left-hand side, looks a little bit like, the CFO who spends about 50% of their time doing a lot of accounting activities. In the middle infographic there, most of the thousands of CFOs and the CFO organization that we polled said, we're spending a lot of time doing the accounting. We'd really like to be spending more of that time being a leader in the organization, being more strategic thinking and helping to drive the business forward. And with all the disruptive market changes, COVID being one of them, there are several of them, and there are a lot of disruptors in the market. It has forced our CFOs to become a little bit more transformational. In order to be influential and innovative, one of the things that we find people looking to do is make changes in their systems to be more efficient and effective. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. So a little intro and high-level info on GP to BC. Some of the things that we'll take advantage of going forward here on these next few slides is the ability to really automate your business and have employees with workflows and business processes that allow you to free up your time and get out of the paper world. Integrations, we'll talk a little bit about how integrations work between Business Central and some of the other applications. Some of the management tools that allow you to drive your business forward a little bit more efficiently, such as a more flexible chart of accounts. Some of the functionality with all of the different Microsoft Office products. Also some integration to, for instance, Nicker check printing. And then finally, at the end of the presentation, we're going to talk a little bit more. Steve is going to talk to us about the value of the licensing and the predictable pricing versus what you've been using today in GP. Let's talk a little bit about automation. So on the left-hand side of this is the GP, sort of the orange bar at the top, and the green bar is Business Central. So I just want to hit some of the highlights here. For Dynamics GP, the manual updates that you have potentially been performing every 2 to 5 years has been, in many cases, very costly to continue to do. In the Business Central case, those updates are automatic with no additional cost. I mean, depending on if you have some significant customizations, of course. In the multi-currency area, in the Dynamics GP suite, if you do have exchange rates that need to be updated, that needs to be done manually. Versus in Business Central, you do have an automated FX rate update tool or utility that comes with the solution. On cash management, e-banking, in GP, it's pretty native, right? It comes out of the box, and there are some third parties that we have worked with over the years to make that a little bit more robust. In Business Central, there are automated free bank feeds that go directly into the bank rec module via a third party. So some similarities, some differences there. Let's go ahead and move forward. Integrations and reporting. So in GP, there are some business intelligence capabilities, usually using BI and OLAP tools. There are some custom integration capabilities via Tableau. With Business Central, there are some strong integrations with Power BI, Power Platform, a pretty simplified user interface. And Steve's going to talk a little bit more about those capabilities a little bit later in the presentation. And for the integrations, all of us love having Integration Manager, and we're pleased when eConnect and some other solutions came out to make that a little bit easier. With Business Central, you can leverage web services and other ISV integration tools or third-party integration tools. A little bit more about the management capabilities in GP versus BC. And I think the biggest one we highlighted on our last webinar is in GP, you've got a very linear segmented chart of accounts. versus in Business Central, you have a dimensional chart of accounts that allows you to drill down on any one of those dimensions and gives you a lot more capabilities in reporting. I think we did highlight that in our last webinar. For revenue recognition in GP, you're using allocation accounts for the revenue recognition. In Business Central, it allocates across departments and locations with a great add-on solution. Projects, I know Steve is going to show us a little bit about project accounting. In GP, you do have a project accounting module that has been used somewhat across our client base. Oftentimes people chose to use a segment in their chart of accounts. Sometimes they use the project accounting module. With Business Central, there is an out-of-the-box project module with some great capabilities for tracking those projects. And that could be an internal or an external project. For purchase orders, requisitions with approval workflow was available out of the box in GP. However, in Business Central, you've got requisitions as well with some workflow templates out of the box and really cool, exciting stuff, punch outs integrated with a third party. We'll highlight that probably in one of our upcoming webinars. And then on the license costs, again, Steve is going to show the differences between the two, but on GP, you've got the perpetual license fee that you pay each year for your GP solution and your third-party solutions. And then with Business Central, you've got named user monthly pricing, and you'll be surprised to see the differences between the two. I'll leave that to Steve. I won't steal his thunder. From a functionality perspective, the user interface is obviously quite different with GP. You've got separate windows for each of the modules in GP, and in Business Central, you've got single screen with workflow capabilities, which is a much cleaner interface. Personalization is pretty cool in Business Central. You've got the ability to pin down some of those key things that you do every day into one single window. And again, I think maybe that would be a good one to highlight in a future webinar. And then for MICR, encoded check printing, that's available out of the box in Business Central, where in GP that required a third-party solution. So I'm going to stop here and let Steve jump in and talk about the specifics, because there are third parties that are ready for Business Central. There are some that aren't. We've taken a stab at just looking at our client base and looking at the most common solutions that people are leveraging today. And Steve's going to talk about which ones might be useful going forward.
All right, so the next two slides are going to show common third-party products that we see a lot in GP. Many of those developers have actually developed the same type of functionality for Business Central. And you can see the list here as we go through it. McCormick check printing is probably one of the most common ISV products or third-party products we have in GP. The good news is that a lot of these developers have developed this for Business Central. Actually, McCormick has too, but if you want to just print a MICR check out of Business Central, you can do that. You do not need a third party like McCormick. It will print the MICR encoded characters on the check, and you're pretty much ready to go. Green shades for payroll taxes and employee engagement, other aspects of the human resources part. They have products in both products, GP and Business Central. And Teresa's going to take a little more in-depth look at green shades coming up. And also Integrity Data, which has a payroll option for Business Central, which is good news. Integrity Data, very strong developer in the GP area, and they've spread out into Business Central. Avalara is also available in both products. You can set up in Business Central, you can set up sales tax and use tax similar to how you would do it in GP. It does not have the finite or detailed calculations that Avalara provides based on the location and the type of product that you're selling. And then the reports that Avalara provides are really good, and they're pretty much ready to go, easy to use. So Avalara is still a pretty strong sales tax compliance solution for both GP and Business Central. A lot of our clients have used accountable forms printer to get the right look and feel to the documents that they print out of GP. That is not available in Business Central. There's some other solutions that you can use to make those documents look pretty good. And actually, we'll see in Business Central that it uses a Word doc functionality and also SSRS to print forms if you want to. So a lot of that functionality is already built into Business Central. Smart List is a huge, huge favorite in GP. E1 Solutions still creates that, supports that. In Business Central, they don't have a smart list per se. They have a lot of that functionality that's there. You can create filters and lists. You can do that in Business Central out of the box. But E1 Solutions has created a new solution for Business Central. It's called PopDoc. It's kind of a weird name, but that's the name of it. And it works a lot like Smart List Designer. So if you're used to Smart List Designer, you can create your own lists in PopDoc. You can modify the lists that are in there already. There's standard lists that come with the system, but you can create your own. And this is kind of the neat thing, is you can have access to other data in your organization. So what we're doing for a lot of clients that are moving from GP to Business Central, we're using PopDoc to look at information that's in GP, right? So they don't have to necessarily maintain it. We can move a lot of that data up to the Azure Data Lake, and PopDoc can look at that information, whether it's on your local GP install or it's in the Azure Data Lake. And then the good news too is we can correlate the information that's in Business Central to the information that's in GP. And you can do that through a common key. So that's what we're really pushing for people that are moving from GP to Business Central in the cloud so that they can keep their information available right within the system. So PopDoc's a pretty good product, and they're continually developing it. And it's there's a number of videos you can see right online with E1 Solutions. So it's a pretty good product. If you're thinking of moving to Business Central, you will want to check that out. All right, Kim, let's go to the next. Another big favorite with GP is Binary Stream, specifically their multi-entity management. They also have a billing suite and property management that's also ready to go with Business Central. So Business Central and GP are pretty much architected similarly as far as adding new companies, having multiple companies. You can have multiple companies in Business Central. If you want, you can put all those companies, all those entities into multi-entity management using Binary Stream. You have some enhanced function from coding intercompany transactions and also not having to log in and log out of companies. So it's a pretty good solution. The billing suite is very good in both products, and Binary Stream has made it available in Business Central. So I'm pretty excited about that because there's a lot of, when you look at ASC 606 compliance, Binary Stream covers that pretty well. And there's also a lot of contract billing piece built into that. So it's a very good solution. In the security area, we're looking at FastPath and Rockton software. FastPath actually has moved a lot of their functionality over to Business Central. Rockton has not. Rockton's still a very good solution for GP. In the budgeting and forecasting area, we'll get into this a little bit more further, but Dynamic Budget is a product used by a number of our customers, and they have not ported to Business Central, but there's a couple solutions we'll talk to that we use a lot. We use Solver, and we also use adaptive planning with our customers. So we'll take a look at that a little later. Notice Technologies has been a strong player in the credit card payments area. They have a solution in Business Central as well. I think it's called PayFabric. So that's a good choice if you have a lot of credit card payments that you need to make or need to accept in your solution. Nolan too is another strong developer in the GP area. They have extended a lot of their applications into Business Central. They also do a lot of work with D365 FNO. So they continue to be a strong player, strong third party with a lot of specific functionality that is interesting to a lot of our clients. And then Professional Advantage, they've had collections management for a long time. For a while, it was available as part of the GP licensing. So a lot of our clients have that embedded in their system. They have also made, the Professional Advantage has made that functionality available in BC too. And it's very good. It's just as good as the collection management piece in GP. And I think Teresa's next. She's going to take a look at the Green Shades payroll and HR platform.
Great, thanks, Steve. So again, that's covering some of the top third parties that we have seen our clients using today. Certainly, there are clients who use other third parties as well. I think at the end of the presentation, we'll have an opportunity for you to ask more questions, and also we'd like to capture any other third parties that you might be using today in case we didn't cover them today. Things are changing, and these third parties are getting more up to speed day by day. So the information is going to be updated from time to time here as we roll out these webinars. So I wanted to highlight two third parties today for anybody who is potentially using GP's payroll, human resources, or GP's payroll with human resources, or those who are interested in using something going forward. Maybe you're using Word and Excel, who knows? The Green Shades company has been around for a number of years. A lot of our clients are using them today for tax information, printing 1099s, uploading that information. And so it's a very, it's kind of like a household name for our GP clients. They have developed a full human resources and payroll platform. It sits outside the Dynamics solutions. It could be implemented today while you're on GP. It could be implemented tomorrow while you are on BC. It could be implemented if you're on any other ERP application as well. So it's ERP agnostic, which gives you the opportunity to sort of run all of this stuff outside. It is cloud-based though, and it does give you one single source of the truth for all of your employee information. So it's independent, it's portable. There's no user interface changes that need to be rolled out because it is in the cloud. It adapts to all the different systems. So you can see there, we've got end-to-end. This can work for any one of the GP, SL, NAV, or AX solutions, as well as Business Central going forward, and D365 F&O as well. So certainly something that you could consider looking at if you have the solution today or want to know more about it. You could certainly get back to us or contact Green Shades directly. So let us know that. Moving on to the next ISV, another company who has been a household name in the GP space is Integrity Data. Integrity Data has also developed a payroll and human resources solution called Payroll Now. For GP, they have been doing HR and payroll add-ons for a number of years. Now this is available for our Business Central customers as well. So they do complete payroll and tax filing. Again, all employee self-service, everything is all in one solution. It's fully embedded into the Business Central solution. Again, keep track of everything in one place. Move on to the next slide, please, Kim. Does allow for multi-state payroll processing, and of course, all of the email pay stubs. These are some of the capabilities that they had in GP as well. Does handle union payroll and garnishments, ACA compliance, which is important today. It does have an assisted easy setup wizard and templates for you. Moving on to the next, deduction and benefits management. I think both solutions have that as well. And then Payroll Now does integrate with some of the other third parties. So if you do have solutions like Binary Stream, as Steve mentioned earlier today, a lot of our clients are using Binary Stream's multi-entity manager, or if you're using the Power BI platform or some of these others, they have those as well. And they're building constantly. I think both Green Shades and Integrity Data are continuing to enhance their solutions, and we'll keep you appraised of all those updates as they happen. All right, Steve.
All right, let's take a look at financial reporting. So Management Reporter is not available with Business Central. People on GP are used to it, and a lot of them like it quite a bit. But there are several options. In Business Central, there's a native financial reporting tool. It's called Account Schedules. It's been used in Business Central and the Vision and Nav for years and years, decades actually. So it's a pretty good tool to get that information out. But most of our clients like a little more functionality, the ability to create presentation-ready reports and allow other users to kind of slice and dice the information. And those products kind of extend the financial reporting tool similar to Management Reporter, then add to it. So one of our greatest successes have been with Solver. Solver is a longtime Microsoft partner who has been developing reporting tools for Microsoft for decades, actually. It has a financial reporting piece and also a planning and budgeting piece. And it's pretty strong. It's built to have a standard connection to Business Central. It comes with a data warehouse. So if you have other information besides the Business Central data, maybe from another system like your GP system or other integrated systems in your organization, you can pull that information into a data warehouse and report on it. Another strong player in that area is the Workday Adaptive Planning solution. Armanino has been working with this product for a very, very long time. You can do financial reporting and planning. They're pretty similar in functionality with Solver. Those are two good options if you want to extend the financial reporting functionality in Business Central. And then what I found recently is a lot of people are using Power BI for financial reporting. And what Armanino did recently is we teamed up with one of our development partners and put together a package of Power BI reports that covers a number of different areas within Business Central. And for example, finance, purchasing, accounts payable, sales. And those packages are ready to go. The finance piece includes a nice trial balance, a nice P&L statement. So you can use Power BI to pull that information, and it's a decent looking report. Typically, it would probably be used internally, but they are good looking reports. Another solution is to use SSRS. SSRS is combined with Power BI to do some of the reporting there. SSRS requires a little bit more development time to get those reports, but it is it's a valid solution for financial reporting. So next, let's look at inventory. The good news, I think, is that the inventory in Business Central, functionality-wise, is similar to GP. You can have multiple locations. You can use them any way you want to. It's easy to set up multiple locations. There's various valuation methods. It's FIFO, LIFO. There's standard costs in there. There's average costs. And there's a real solid lot and serial control functionality in Business Central. And what's nice about the lot and serial control in Business Central is you have the ability to kind of control when a lot number needs to be used or a serial number needs to be used. In GP, you have to assign a lot and serial number anytime you move that product, whether it comes into your business, you create it in your business, you move it in your business, you move it out, you have to specify a lot or serial number if it's that type of item. In Business Central, you've got some functionality to change that. So if you want to just assign the lot numbers when you sell something, you can do that as well. But the big news, I think, is that Business Central adds warehouse management functionality right within the application itself. The good news is that the database that the warehouse management function uses in Business Central is the same database, the same information that's just used in the regular inventory system. So it allows you to keep track of zones, bins, and aisles and use that in bringing items in, moving items around, and shipping items out. To really use it effectively, you're going to want to use handheld scanners. And there are a number of add-in products that allow you to do that. So it's a really good solution because typically what I've seen when clients have a strong ERP system and they have a separate warehouse management system, there's always the problem in syncing data from one system to the other, and there's invariably going to be some problems. Those problems kind of go away with Business Central because, again, the information's in the same database, it uses the same table, so there's really not any synchronization errors. So that's pretty handy. There's also some enhanced reporting, I think, in Business Central. One of them is that the aged inventory report. It's available ready to go right out of the box with Business Central. I can look at my aged inventory by quantity and by value. I was recently working with a distributor, and that was one of their key requirements. They said, how long has this stuff been sitting in my warehouse? I want to know. And this report comes right out of Business Central. It's easy to use, and it gives you valuable information. So that's kind of the inventory features in BC. There's also a light manufacturing similar to GP that you can use as well, or there's a full manufacturing functionality. All right, let's go to the next one. In BC, there is a project functionality. It's called Jobs. This is an example of a little office construction project that someone might be doing for one of their customers. So I can put a budget in there. I can keep track of actuals, and I can bill right out of the solution to create invoices. This can also be used for companies that are just doing internal projects. So we have a lot of biotech companies, and they have different projects related to probably product development. So this is a pretty good tool for keeping track of that information, because again, I can put a budget in if I want to, but I can keep track of actual costs, whether they're vendor costs, inventory costs. There's also a timesheet functionality with approval built into Business Central. So it could be a pretty good solution for that type of thing. If you're a professional service organization, I think that you'll find that the jobs functionality in BC is going to be a little lacking. But for simple projects, it's pretty easy to use within Business Central. It's different than in GP, where you have separate windows for project accounting. There's the payables entry and the purchase order entry, and there's a separate version of that for project accounting. In Business Central, it's the same set of windows. It's just there's just additional fields that you can add to the screens with the personalization functionality. So basically, 1 minute, you can add those fields into, for example, the payables invoice, and then you've got job functionality. So it's pretty easy to use. There are some limits to it, but I think I would say 30 to 40% of our clients that are looking for a project piece, the jobs functionality Business Central handles it pretty well. All right, let's go to the next. One of the really nice things about Business Central is that it is built on the Power Platform from Microsoft. It's obviously a Microsoft product in Azure, but it's closely connected with the Power Platform. We've talked a little bit about Power BI. Power BI can be embedded right within Business Central, so I can see those reports there. But the big news is in the Power Apps area and the Power Automate. These are no-code, low-code solutions that allow users to create a Power App, which is a new functionality that can record data. It can write data to a database, and it gives people additional functionality that they may not have out of the standard product. So when people look at their GP system, they say, well, I've got all these customizations. What am I going to do with that? How can I possibly move that to Business Central? Well, the truth is that the Power Apps with the Power Automate can really solve a lot of those problems. So we've been pretty successful in quickly creating a Power App that allows people to do things that they thought, oh, it would be a whole development area. The Power Apps writes to the Dataverse, which is a platform in Microsoft. So the data is recorded automatically. Power Automate is more of an integration tool. It can also be used for workflow, and it can reach out beyond Business Central to other systems in your organization. So if you use Teams, you can create notifications for workflow in Teams, also in Outlook and other systems that maybe not related to Business Central at all, but you use them and you want to get functionality of the data from Business Central or into Business Central. Power Automate is really the way to go. And we're seeing a lot of activity around artificial intelligence, both in the power of virtual agents, but also just automating a lot of integration type things or just repetitive tasks. So we're using like artificial intelligence builders to, for example, connect to external systems, like say your bank. It can connect to your bank. It can pull down a daily list of closed transactions or other things of that nature, and it will do it automatically. So it's been a pretty interesting tool, and we've got a number of use cases that our clients are coming to us and they say, we're sick of doing this thing over and over and over again, and we want to automate it. And a lot of those repetitive tasks can be easily automated with some of the artificial intelligence functionality that's part of the Microsoft Power Platform. Okay, now this is the fun part. Lifecycle policy. So a change has been made with GP. They moved from a lifecycle policy that they had for years, and it was based on particular versions of their release, and they moved to a thing called a modern lifecycle. So the change is that on your current GP system, if you're basically on 2018 or earlier, you're on the older version of the lifecycle policy. And we'll talk a little bit more about how the support ends for those systems based on the version that you're at. So if you're at 2013, your support has already ended. 2016 ended, well, yesterday for mainstream support. So we'll take a look at what that means. There's mainstream support and extended support. When you get into the modern lifecycle, Microsoft has made a commitment to GP and said, yeah, this is a great product. We want to keep developing it. And what they're really doing is they're changing it to a support cadence that comes out with three updates a year. And we'll take a look at the details on what those are. So let's take a look at the next slide here. So for years, Microsoft has been breaking down mainstream support versus extended support. If you have payroll in your GP system, you want to stay on mainstream support because that includes the tax updates at the year end and includes other hot fixes and functionality that you may not already have in your system. So it's a basic upgrade to your existing system, including those items I just mentioned. But mainstream support will end with some of the older versions of GP, the ones that are on the older life cycle. And then extended support usually just extends that out another several years. And it does not add any new functionality to your GP system. It will not update the taxes, but it will provide security updates. So you can be assured that when you use GP, you're not going to have problems with security because Microsoft will update the GP application itself to comply with basically their standards they have for those types of applications. All right, so let's go here. So right now, these are the older products of Dynamics GP. So these relate to Dynamics GP 2018 and earlier. As I mentioned, the mainstream support, which again includes taxes, upgrades, functionality upgrades. For 2016, that ended yesterday. And you can see that the extended support goes out to 2026. So the good news is if you're using 2016 now, you can still use a system. It runs fine, and you'll be supported up through July 2026 from a security standpoint. And for most people, that's just fine. If you have payroll and you need those tax updates, you will not have access to the automated tax updates if you're on 2016 or earlier. Those tax rates can be updated manually. It takes a fair amount of effort to do that, but it can be done. And then 2018 is, you can see the where the support ends for the different mainstream and extended support options. All right, so the modern life cycle is what GP is moving to. And this represents the modern life cycle. What you see is there are going to be 3 updates a year. The first one's going to come up in October. So in 2021, October 2021, you're going to get an update available that you can download into your system. It'll create some new features. It'll create it'll have bug fixes in it. It's basically the general upgrade for that system. And then the tax updates come in a separate update. And then their year-end updates come right at the end of the year, and they may include things like changes to the 1099 form, which was a big deal last year, right? It can include other types of changes of that nature. So every year, Microsoft is saying, we're committed to GP, and we're going to do these 3 updates throughout the year. They have a thing where they say, well, if you want to stay current, you must take at least one of those releases every year. And what that means to me is that if I want to be on a current version, then I'm going to have to take one of those updates. The good news is that the updates are cumulative from year to year to year. That's the way they're designed. So if you happen to miss one, say in 2021, your system's still going to work, right? The current version of GP it's called 18.2. That was released in 2020, October 2020. Well, anyone that's older than that version they're not current, but their system is still working, right? And they have access, if they're current on their enhancement, they have access to the updates that are there, but the system still works. It's fine, and the support is still there, and up to certain times that we just looked at the other table. So again, these updates we've done a few of them, and our impression is that they're not huge updates. In other words, they go pretty rapidly. Even if you do one every year, you're going to get the latest features that are in GP. You're going to get the tax updates and the year-end updates. And again, you can choose any of the 3 that you want to do. Most people aren't going to do all 3 of them. Maybe they'll just do one. Do the year-end updates. That's when a lot of the critical things come out. But you can choose the ones you want. Again, they're cumulative. So say you skip a year, you skip an update. The next time you do an update, you will be up to date. You'll be current. And there's actually a pretty decent link here. I think this PowerPoint presentation is going out to you. So the links are live when you get it. And this is a good thing to look at. But basically what we wanted to do today was to make sure that you understand that there is a change in the life cycle. It's called the modern life cycle. The table that we're looking at pretty much represents what's going to happen with GP on the modern life cycle. All right. So dual license offer. So this is a pretty decent thing. What Microsoft has said is if you are using GP, NAV, SL on premise, and you want to try Business Central, we'll give you those licenses for basically free. If you're current on your enhancement, you're going to get licenses for Business Central equal in value to the enhancement fee that you pay to GP. So if you want, the reason we say this and the reason we think it's a good idea is that what the dual license means is you can keep using your GP system and you can try out Business Central. You get a whole set of licenses. You can try it out. You can start an instance in the Business Central Azure system, and you can try it out. And we'll talk a little bit later how we can even help you with a proof of concept, so we can pull your data from GP and move it up into that instance, and you can try it out. So it's a pretty good deal. The pricing is really good. There's for this, there's no additional pricing. And say you say, well, I want to try out Business Central. And then you try it out and you say, I'm sticking with GP. GP is a good system. I like it. I'm going to stay with it. Then nothing changes. You just keep going. The key thing though to remember is that you've got to do it before your renewal date. So everyone that's current on their GP enhancement has a date when that ends. If you don't take this option before that date, then basically you have to wait another year to get that deal. You can still get licenses, but you'll be charged for them. Let's go to the next one. So there's a couple benefits here. One is that you don't have to pay the enhancement fee on GP upfront. They can actually put it into monthly payments. So that's one advantage there. You'll get the dual licenses, and at some point, when they come off that dual license, if you switch to Business Central, there's still a, I think there's an advantage to having taken that selection ahead of time. If you decide to move to Business Central from GP, you're just going to start paying for the licenses, but I think they'll be at a much better value. And then, as I mentioned before, there's always a catch, right? The main thing is that you have to do it before your enhancement fee or enhancement plan ends. Right now, this actually has been extended by Microsoft to August 31st of this year. They're possibly coming out with another option similar to this, but right now this is the only thing that's being communicated to us. You can see that last week, I think it was June 30th of 2021, this thing was going to end. And then Microsoft said, well, wait a minute, let's extend it a couple months, right? So it's a pretty good deal. It gives you the ability to try out Business Central with basically no licensing change. And if you decide to go back to GP or stay with GP, then you're set there as well. Okay. So you're going to have to get your glasses on to see this. This is a diagram from Microsoft that kind of explains the fixed life cycle and also the modern life cycle. We just talked about that, but you can see it's in a timeline here, and you can see when the different versions are going to lose mainstream support and extended support, and it's you can see for the various versions there. And then when the switch to the modern life cycle starts, the first start of that was like October 2019. It came out, it was 18.2. October 2020 was 18.3. So there'll be a new release in October this year. It'll be released 18.4 most likely. So what's nice about this schedule here is Microsoft's making a commitment to GP. They're saying, hey, we have a lot of GP clients. They like using it. They have some customizations they want to keep. They've got integrations to other systems that are important to them, and they want to keep GP. So Microsoft is saying, you know what, we're going to support this thing at least to 2028. We're committed to that. We're using this modern life cycle program, and we just talked about how that's what they're going to upgrade and when they're going to upgrade it. So it's a pretty good solution, or it's a pretty good diagram for showing what's going to happen with Dynamics GP in the next 10 years, basically. Okay, so what I wanted to do here was just kind of show you a comparison. This is a simple comparison between GP and BC from a licensing cost and from a consulting upgrade cost only. So what I did is I took a standard GP 5-user system and a BC 5-user system, and it's just core financials. I don't have manufacturing here, don't have any field service. So it's a pretty basic system. So the annual software maintenance is around $3,000 a year. If you want to upgrade to the current version, which is 18.3, be on the modern life cycle, an upgrade for this type of system is going to be about $18,000. When we do the upgrades, we look at your system intensely. We look at all the integrations you have, the size of the company databases you have, the number of the databases, the functionality you're using, and the integrations and third-party products. And we put together a specific estimate for your system, and we'll cover that with you. But I just picked this number because that's pretty much what I would guess it would be. And then if you want to stay on the modern life cycle and do at least one upgrade a year, you're looking at about $3,700 a year to apply those upgrades, right? Again, they're cumulative. We anticipate that they're going to be relatively easy to do. There's not like a big, huge version upgrade. Now compare that to Business Central. So, and this includes the standard licensing now for Business Central, which is basically for this, it's $70 per user per month. And The upgrades to Business Central, there are upgrades, right? They add to the product. They fix things here and there. They add functionality. Those are done automatically by Microsoft, and they push them out to your tenant. If you're in, say, for example, you're in a Sarbanes-Oxley environment where you have to test those things first, you can work with Microsoft and they can set up a mechanism for doing that. They can delay the upgrade to the production system, but they can give you a test system too that you can try out these things. So there's some flexibility in that. But basically, Microsoft's going to update Business Central at least 2 times a year, and it happens automatically. They'll tell you what's going to happen ahead of time. They'll show you documents or give you documents that show you the changes that are going to be made so you can anticipate it. But basically, when you walk in one day after the upgrade, you've got a new system. You don't have to worry about it. All that work's been done for you. And what I try to show on this screen here is the dollar cost difference between those 2 options. It does not include, for example, on the GP, this does not include any hosting fees or hardware costs you may have associated with this, but it gives you an idea of kind of what you're looking at. The big thing here are the updates, right? In Business Central, the updates are going to be automatic. All right, let's look at the pricing here. So this is the standard pricing that's available to everyone. For existing clients on AX, GP, NAV, and SL, you will get a discount if you decide to move to Business Central. You can see that discount is 60%. So even at the standard price, a Business Central Essentials user is $70 a month. That's a pretty good price. You compare that to other options that are out there in the market, it's very good. And then if you're an existing client on those products, you'll get a 60% discount. So it's very favorable pricing. Let's just talk about the different license types quickly. Business Central Essentials basically is core financials and distribution. And it includes jobs as well. The Business Central Premium adds to that a full manufacturing suite, similar to GP functionality, and also adds a field service suite as well. And then the team members are basically have access to do approvals and some reporting and things of that nature. You can see also at the bottom there that this has been extended through August 31st. I think Teresa's going to handle or look at the next slides here.
Yeah, actually, in the effort of catching up here on time, Steve, you had some great stuff there. I'm going to skip through 32 and 33. This is just sort of a timeline example, which you can read on your own when we send this out to you all. So if you wouldn't mind skipping straight to slide, yep, there we go. I'd like to talk about the proof of concept.
Yeah, so I touched on this just briefly. So this is an option if you want to try out Business Central. Specifically, if you have those dual rights licenses, right? The dual rights licenses cost nothing. You'll get BC, but what we want to do is we want to make sure that you have a good experience with BC. So we offer a proof of concept project, and it can include various things, but this is a typical one. So what we do is we'll do a high-level fit gap analysis, and we'll sit down with you and see, what does BC have, or what does it not have compared to GP? We'll go through that, and then we'll create a requirements document that includes like the core system requirements. We'll put in there the fit gap findings that came out of our analysis there. We'll look at system configuration design, and then we'll put together a project to basically run through that proof of concept. And we'll make sure that that you get through that project and that you're successful with it. The proof of concept evaluation, there's a couple of big things here. First of all, Microsoft has a data migration tool from GP to Business Central, and we can use that to pull in your information from your existing GP system. It automatically pushes it up to Business Central. We use it primarily just for the proof of concept, because if we get into an actual integration or actual implementation, we want to be a little more careful about the data that we're putting into Business Central. This data migration tool actually just take your system, it'll take the chart of accounts, it'll move it into the new chart of accounts format in Business Central. It'll take your customers, vendors, and items, move those over. It'll take your open transactions as well. So open payables, open receivables, open inventory, it'll move that to Business Central. The whole idea is that you'll see your data in Business Central and you'll get a better idea of how you might use Business Central. So this is just one project, or one offering we have. This type of solutions, it's around 90 to 100 hours to do that, but we would tailor make a proof of concept project to your needs. All right, and then I think the next one just has a number of links to more information about Business Central. And again, you'll get this PowerPoint document, and those links will be live, so you can drill down on those.
All right, Kim. Go ahead.
Great, our poll is up.
So what we'd like to know from you all is we're trying to do these webinars every couple of months as things are changing rapidly. We'd like to know which topics you might be interested in learning more about in a future webinar, and this is multiple choice. So please, if you can take a moment and help us guide the topics for our next discussion, that would be super helpful. So Kim, tell me when you're going to close the poll.
You bet. Yeah, I'll keep it open for just a few more seconds here. Thank you, everybody, for your feedback, and I'll close it out here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right.
And I'll share those results really quick if you want to look at them, Teresa.
Great, awesome. So financial reporting seems to be one of the topics that we need to drill deeper into. I don't think we're surprised, are we, Steve?
No, not at all.
So yeah, we'll spend a little bit more time on the next one, and then we'll just kind of keep going through the list of topics as you are voting on these. We'll draft or craft some of our webinars around that. So thank you for your feedback. Go ahead and move to the next slide. Thank you, Kim. So next steps, for sure, reach out to us if you reach out to myself, Steve. For sure, reach out to your client manager. Some of you on the call are clients of the firm and have a client manager that you work with. Reach out if you want to talk about a proof of concept, or if you have more questions that we didn't answer. I'm going to try to tackle a couple of questions before we hang up. Go ahead and move to the next slide. I think that's it. Okay. I did want to cover some of the questions that came up, which I have been answering along the way. I'm going to try to read them along with the answers. And then the ones that we don't get to in the next 2 minutes, we will certainly follow up. So the first question came, how do we know if we have mainstream or extended support? We're on 2018, no payroll. So if you're on 2018 today and going back to Steve's slide, then your mainstream support ends in January of 23. Your extended will end in January of 28. So no need to absolutely make a change. However, we want to give you the options here. Number 2, are there fees to implement BC? Yeah, there would certainly be a fee to help implement that. As Steve mentioned, there are some migration tools that help us with that process. I think it's a good idea to start with a proof of concept so that you can see what it would look like and let your folks play with it. But for sure, we can do a full estimate as well. Next one, if I understand correctly, in order to enjoy that 60% discount, if we switch to BC, we would have to do so by August of 21. And the answer is yes and no. You don't actually have to move or implement, but you would change your licensing structure. And maybe we can spend a little bit more time on that on our next call, but the licensing for sure would need to change. And then you can take your time to implement. Next question, how is the performance of Business Central in comparison to GP running locally? And Steve, I'm going to throw this one over to you. I don't know that I have an answer, and I don't know that we have an answer, but I'll let you address that.
Well, it's anecdotal. I use BC a lot. I do all the demos for Armanino, and I would say that 95% of the time it's really quick. I mean, it's remarkably quick. And the way they architected it, they designed it that way. So if you're in a, like say a transaction screen, the whole screen doesn't fill out until you get to that area that you're looking at, and then they'll start pushing data up. So it's designed in a way to make it work really well.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Last question I'm gonna address, since I think we got them all. It was around if you're on extended support because you're on 2016, will you get 1099 and 1096 updates for the 21 year end? And I believe the answer is no. Steve, correct me if I'm wrong. You won't get any updates for the 1099s and 1096s.
I believe that's correct. Yep.
Yeah. However, I'll plug one thing. We do have solutions for you to fully outsource your 1099, 1096 processing. If you want to know more about that, you can certainly reach out to us. Okay, one more question. Does BC support foreign languages?
Yes, there's a number of foreign languages and localizations that are available with Business Central.
Great, great. Okay, with that, Kim, I'll let you wrap us up.
Yes. Thank you for all the great questions, Steve and Teresa. Wonderful information. Thank you everyone for joining us. As you close out, there will be a survey that pops up. If you can take a moment to let us know how we're doing and further future information you'd like to see, we will be looking at it. So thank you everyone for attending, and have a great day.